Hello everyone, Reza here. Welcome to my channel. As you see, this video is slightly different compared to other videos I publish on this channel. So as some of you may or may not know, I teach animation and effects for a living, and for me having a solid, reliable gear is a must-have, and that allows me to conduct processor-intensive tasks almost on a daily basis. Now, my current workstation is old and weary, almost 9 years old, and has started to struggle to calculate some of the simulation heavy scenes back in Houdini or even Autodesk Maya. So this video goes over my top picks for my brand new PC in 2021. I thought I would share my research with you good people, so if you're planning on upgrading your computer for productivity purposes and occasional gaming, you've come to the right place. I won't be showing any benchmark or numbers. There are a lot of videos and resources online to give you comprehensive performance analysis per item. I'm very excited to share my findings with you. Let's get started. Now, the first decision you need to make is you need to ask yourself, are you team red or you're team blue? In other words, Intel or AMD? This decision is a key one, and a lot of items will be crossed out from your list based on that decision alone. I recommend AMD Ryzen series. AMD has had a couple of great years. Quite recently, they introduced AMD 5000 series using Zen 3 macro architecture, and that includes 5600X, 5800X, 5900X, and 5950X. Now, the way that Ryzen names its product is quite unique, for lack of a better word. This one, for example, is Zen 3 4th generation 5000 series, and its 5950X chip. And that would be my recommendation, that would be my top pick for the CPU.
AMD Zen 3 core architecture surpassed everyone's expectation as to what it can deliver to desktop platforms. 5950X has over 20 major changes and can extract over an average of 19% additional performance for every megahertz of frequency relative to the previous generation too. This CPU features 16 cores and 32 threads with the base clock of 3.4 GHz and the boost clock of 4.9 with the same power efficiency as 3950X. Simply impressive.
Now, the original price tag on this CPU is $800 if you manage to dodge the inflated price in this crazy market. A step up obviously would be a Threadripper 3960X or 3970X, maybe to double the number of CPU cores and threads, but if you go down that route, then your build becomes very expensive very quickly, so I'm not going to even explore that option. Another question you need to ask yourself is, do you really need the best of the best in Zen 3 lineup, 5950X, or can you downgrade without losing too much performance? That's a very good question. Well, if you use this computer as your source of income, then I would say yes, go for it. Don't even hesitate. However, if you are an average consumer or student, well, this product is a little bit of an overkill and a little bit too expensive. So an alternative would be 3950X, comes from Ryzen Zen 2 series, and that saves you a couple of $100 at the time of the recording, obviously, while this still offers 16 cores and 32 threads for your build. For gaming only, you can even rely on 5600X. With a good GPU, you'll be all set. Now to the motherboard, the board that ties it all together. A quick disclaimer, some of my peers actually tend to pick the case first to decide what motherboard can fit in it, but I would rather pick the motherboard first and then, only then, I purchased a case based on the size of my motherboard. There's no right or wrong way, so don't call me out on this one. It's just a personal preference. Now, how to pick the right motherboard? A common newbie mistake when building a PC is actually overspending on a motherboard and consequently cutting yourself a little short on other parts. The good news is, once you pick your CPU, finding the right motherboard becomes relatively straightforward. My pick is a Gigabyte Aorus Master. The original price on this is $350 US, and you can see it's not the priciest motherboard for this lineup, yet it offers amazing features and ensures compatibility. Now, to the graphics card. One of the favorite topics these days every time someone builds a PC. You gotta be very careful on this one because you don't wanna make an emotional decision and pay too much money for this item. For example, we all know about the glorious almighty RTX 3090 with 24 GB of memory. Unless you play 8K games using an 8K monitor, you really don't need that amount of power. For CG artists, you need to pay attention to CUDA core section on your board and calculate how much you're spending per CUDA core. My pick is still from an NVIDIA 30 series lineup. This box is empty, by the way. Is RTX 3070.
GeForce RTX 3070 Eagle is armed with 8GB GDDR6 with 5888 CUDA cores and has 1770 MHz core clock. This board comes with two HDMI 2.1, two DisplayPort 1.4a, and three 80mm fans with alternative spinning. According to NVIDIA, this card's performance can match the very popular and very expensive 2080 Ti, which makes this board a perfect pick for my build.
Now, if you're a student or an average consumer who wants to play games but doesn't want to spend as much money, then I would say look into RTX 20 series, specifically RTX 2070. It's about $300 US at the time of the recording and has got the same amount of memory but half a CUDA core, probably 2500 more or less. Also, a very solid option would be RTX 3060 Ti, which is currently slightly cheaper than 3070, and the price tag on this is around $400 US. Now to hard drives. My goodness, storage drives and the architecture behind them have changed a lot since last time I built a PC. So I had a lot of catching up to do, I'm not gonna lie. If you've been following my recommendation, now the motherboard you have allows you to have access to M.2 slot on the board. That allows you to implement NVMe, an internal solid state drive, as your boot drive. Now these guys use flash memory for data, and they can transfer up to 3 GB per second, which is almost 5 times faster than SATA or AHCI. So having one as your boot drive is a no-brainer. This one is 9070 EVO 1 terabyte. The brand is Samsung, but again, there are so many brands that you can buy, but they're just M.2 NVMe. Now I combine this with 3.5-inch drives as backups, so on and so forth. So I purchased a 8 terabyte and another 6 terabyte as my backup to find storage, so on and so forth, and this one as my boot drive. Now to the power supply. If you are using Zen 3 with RTX 30 series, then probably 850 watt gold should be more than enough for you to take care of the power solution for your computer. Now, while power supplies are fairly straightforward to purchase, there's one element that's worth mentioning and you need to be mindful of them, and that is power supply types. We have non-modular, semi-modular, and fully modular. With non-modular, all the cables are attached. You cannot detach them, even if you don't use them. As a result of that, cable management becomes a pain in the neck, and mistakes in that area can block the airflow inside your case, and the temperature will increase. Recipe for disaster. They're cheaper, but I do not recommend them. Then we have semi-modular, a sort of happy medium where the price is reasonable, the unit gives you a good level of customizability, they come with at least a 24-pin attached to the unit for motherboard, and the rest can be detached. And then we have fully modular, where every single cable can be detached. Actually, you can turn them into fancy RGB, pretty looking cables to make the case look pretty. But all the look aside, if there is a faulty cable, you can actually replace the cable without replacing the entire unit. And the cleaning up process becomes a lot easier when you just take out the unit, dust it off, plug everything back, and put the unit in. My pick was Cooler Master Gold 850 V2. It's fully modular and more than enough for what I use and works beautifully. I would recommend not to go lower than 850 watt. Obviously, there's another solid alternative, which is EVGA Supernova. And with that, you can get either gold or titanium. The price on these power supplies are around 150 US dollars, a little bit more, a little bit less, based on the inflation. Again, in this crazy market, but it's around the same cost. Now to the case. If you buy a case, you need to think about 3 main points: thermal, airflow, and noise. Hence, be quiet. No, I wasn't talking to you. That's actually the name of this case. This decision was not based on the look, but performance. This case offers one of the best noise management technologies I've ever seen. It's extremely quiet despite having 340 millimeter fans on this case. Actually, that allows the case and the temperature inside the case to be very, very cool and well controlled. The price is about $100 US. A step up to this would be Phanteks, probably Phanteks 500A would be a good option. And if you want to go with a budget-friendlier option, because this is already a budget-friendly case, I would recommend Liandli Landcool 215, which is around 70 to 80 US at the time of the recording. Almost forgot, if you're into water cooling, that is compatible with water cooling as well. Now let's talk about memory. I keep this one short and sweet. If you're a CG artist, do a lot of rendering, a lot of simulation, 6K to 8K video editing. And if you're someone who does multitasking, you know, running software packages at the same time, Reza here, then you need memory. You need a lot of them. So I would suggest minimum of 64 GB of RAM up to 128 GB of RAM. I purchased this little guy. So Trident Z Neo from G-Skills. Now this is compatible with Ryzen 5000 series. This is compatible with Aorus Master, the motherboard, and it worked beautifully. So I paid about $600 US for this one. If you want to upgrade even and go one step up, I would recommend the same thing, but 4,000 megahertz as your base frequency. But the thing is, then you pay $150 for what I call minor improvement in multitasking. So I would not recommend that. If you're a student, 32 to 64 will get the job done. If you do this for gaming, then 32 will be okay. With a good, decent graphics card, you'll be all sorted. Let's talk air cooler, aka CPU fan. I picked Dark Rock Pro 4 and the original price on this is around $90 US.
Dark Rock Pro 4 offers an immense cooling performance with virtually inaudible operation. The cooler features two tower heat sinks with wave contour fins with 135mm solid wings and 120mm solid wings 3. Included with the cooler is a magnetic screwdriver to install the cooler, set of fan hooks for the third fan, all Intel and AMD mounts, 4-pin splitter, manuals in different languages, and of course a super tiny tube of thermal compound for 1 or 2 applications.
Now, just a quick tip, if you go with this product, is you need to make sure to insert RAM modules before you mount this on your CPU. The reason for it is this product is big, it's heavy, 1.4 kilogram in fact, so you may not have enough clearance to insert all 4 RAM modules at the same time. So make sure to do that before you insert this guy on top of your CPU. Now, we're almost there to a completely optional item, an optical drive. Yeah, optical drive. Well, so the old days of having optical drives as part of your case, long gone. If you, like me, want to put in DVDs or CDs, compact discs, every now and then you probably need one of these external optical drives. I bought it around 30 bucks in Amazon. I put the link in the description below. It's called Pop-Up Mobile External. Very simple, easy to use. That's actually how I installed my Windows. So, you know, it's got the USB-A and USB Type-C, enough for occasional use. And this is it. That takes me to the end of my list for my 2021 PC build for CG artists. Again, there are plenty of options out there, and many of them can be great replacement for some of the parts that I introduced in this video. But if you want to deviate from that, then make sure that you conduct your research. The reason I brought these 2 manuals, because some of the companies like MSI, ASRock, or Gigabyte actually offer these manuals in digital format. So you can actually download them, consult the manual, make sure that parts are compatible, because you know, you put all this time and effort, at the end you may realize that there are some minor incompatibility issues, and that's not pleasant. So that should do it. Let me know how you go, and I provide every link to all these parts. I purchased them from Amazon, so I make them available so you can actually click on the same link and purchase exactly the same item. I'm very happy with what I came up with. I've already put that to a test and worked like a charm beautifully. So hopefully I can make better content for you guys. So that should do it. Let me know in the description below how you go. And if you have any questions, of course, I'm available, more than happy to assist you. I hope you found this video useful. Until the next video, talk to you guys soon.